Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Spiritist Psychology Study Group for our meeting in our new series, The Inner Journey Finding Your True Self. Here, we will explore life's big questions and connect with others on the path of self discovery, based on the teachings of Joanna de Angelis. I'm Fabrício Assunção from the Joanna de Angelis Spiritist International. Here with us is our speaker, Dr. Anahy Fonseca. This evening, Anahy will delve into the book Life, Challenges and Solutions by Joanna de Angelis, Chapter 2, Objectives of Human Life. We will have time for your questions and feel free to contribute with insights, reflections, and questions. I now hand it over to Anahy for her talk about objectives of human life. Over to you, Anahy.
Thank you, Fabrício. Thank you all that are here today with us to this wonderful topic that we are going to be studying. I'll just start sharing the PowerPoint presentation. Okay. Is everything all right? So as we planned before, so I think it's better that we see some of Joanna's teachings and then we stop to talk about and reflect upon her teachings, and then we come back to the PowerPoint. That's the idea, right, Fabrício?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so let's go. So I brought to you just for us to warm up in a previous meeting. That's the preface of the book, Life Challenges and Solution. So just a quick reminder, let's say, of Joanna's teachings when she talks about the miracle of life. And here Joanna is saying that regarding human life in particular, we can detect its genesis in the divine psyche, which conceived it, and it inspires it, providing it the energy with which it is nourished and which propels its growth through the many reincarnations of the immortal spirit, also called the intelligent principle of the universe in the Spiritist knowledge. And I just here want to make show you all a synchronicity. I haven't realized that's why it's so cool for us to study together, because today is the International Women's Day, right? We are celebrating the feminine, but since we are here reflecting upon spiritist knowledge, so and using also Joanna uses Jung's concepts. Remember, animus. You can go and look in Burnout Society in the first year of our meetings where we discussed the concepts of anima and animus, that are the feminine anima, the feminine within man, and animus, the masculine within women. So if we are celebrating, of course, here in the with all the difficulties that we still have and differences in cultures all around the globe, but looking from this perspective that we are celebrating Women's International Day, and this is important, of course, in a cultural sense, but also in a spiritual sense. I invite you to celebrate the feminine sacred that are within all of us. Of course, we women express it more fully in our through our conscious personality, and in man, the sacred feminine. The sacred feminine is the archetype, right? So It is like a program that we all have. But of course, the feminine would be, as I told you, in man's unconscious, okay? But I just wanted to point out here this wonderful synchronicity that I realized just now. That's why it's a synchronicity, because today it is the Women's International Day, and the first sentence in the preface of the book, it is this one: regarding human life in particular, we can detect its genesis in the divine psyche, which conceived it and inspires it, like nourishes it, right? Providing it the energy, the nourishment with which it is nourished and which propels its growth through the many reincarnations of the immortal spirit, also called the intelligent principle of the universe. So when we are thinking about celebrating the sacred feminine, so we are thinking of the part of the creator or the creation that we call God. Many of us call God, but you can call whatever you want. But when we are talking about the divine psyche, is one of the ways that Jonah calls the creation, the source of all creation. We are talking here in this first paragraph in the feminine sacred of the creation, right? Because we are talking about conceiving, inspiring, nourishing, right? Everything that the feminine does, this part of the creation that conceives, nourishes, provides energy, right? So I think that's a beautiful synchronicity. So let's go on. So Joanna says that simple in its constitution, this intelligent principle, all of us, sparkles of this creation, right, of the creator, like a seed, this intelligent principle liberates the complexities necessary for its growth, like a seed that becomes swollen in the benevolent heart of the soil in order to become the plant that it's meant to be, but which lies sleeping within. Ignorant about its destiny, the immortal spirit awakens to its own reality by means of intellectual and moral experiences that enable it to achieve plenitude. The spirit, Jung's self, capital S, according to Joanna, is our spirit. So the spirit, in its initial simplicity as a psyche, so here she's talking about evolution, right? Cannot perceive the pure spirit that lies silent in its inner being, and which one day will sail the infinite rivers of immortality. This process of evolution, however, is characterized by challenges that become increasingly serious and significant as the spirit's faculties and discernment develop. The blooming of inner values is, in a certain way, agonizing in all living species, here in our planet at least. Living is a sublime challenge, and living wisely is a blessing that is available to all who resolve decidedly to advance, overcome personal limitations, and attain communion with the source of creation. Another name that Jonah calls God, okay? So let's go to chapter 2. That was just for us to remember what John is talking about, the brother, the calling to our higher self, to our higher consciousness, okay? And then we come to chapter 2, meaning of the existential being, and the topic is objectives of human life, as Fabricio said. So Joanna says that reincarnation is considered to occur on Earth because physical existence is believed to serve a greater purpose. An individual emerges from a prolonged process of development of inherent values, which gradually unfold when suitable conditions are present. So here she is developing her thoughts from the preface, okay? Like seeds that are blossoming. So the individual emerges from a prolonged process of development of inherent values which gradually unfold when suitable conditions are present. Well, then Joanna says, progress occurs gradually as habits are integrated into one's character. This process is shaped by the cumulative experiences acquired over numerous lifetimes. So she says both mistakes and successes serve as valuable resources. Mistakes and successes. We can talk more about guilt and things like that. Because look what Jonah is saying. Both mistakes and successes serve as valuable resources for the development of consciousness. So, of course, when evolving, and we are always evolving our consciousness, we are going to have successes, but we are also going to make mistakes, contributing to significant achievements aligned with the broader objectives and frameworks of the universe. So, for Joanna, the destination of our consciousness is cosmic in nature, when in perfect harmony with the plans and programs of the universe. So, I think this is so important, people, because everybody's talking about in lots of podcasts and things like that about life in different planets. Are we alone? What's going on? Of course, what's the truth in our planet, we are going to know shortly, because Spiritist knowledge, as other spiritualists philosophies and religion, says that we are in this wonderful moment of our evolution, that we are leaving the vibration of suffering in our planet to go to another step of evolution in consciousness, this vibration of what Spiritist knowledge call regenerate world. A world where, okay, we are still going to have, let's say, bad things going on, but the good things and the goodness of all will prevail. Okay, so in the regenerate world, according to Allan Kardec, graduation of consciousness in different planets is a world where, okay, it's not full of bliss totally. It's not the happy worlds. You can go to the Book of Spirits to understand more about that by Allan Kardec. But what is important is that we leave this world or this vibration of suffering and where unfortunately we have all these proofs in reincarnations that mean a lot of suffering, because we haven't yet learned how to overcome what is the shadow within us. So we go to a world with more light, with more goodness of the heart, with more understanding of the sacred in different texts, in different religions. And for us in the West, it means the gospel, and means the forgiving, means that we won't have any more enemies, because we are not going to project onto others our own shadows. So when I integrate my shadows, when the light is shines brighter within myself, then of course I don't have to project onto others what is still shadow on me. Okay, so I think that's very, very important. Please pay close attention to this sentence that Joanna is saying, that we are saying that we are going to make mistakes and we are going to have successes, and all of this in the path of evolution serve as valuable resources for the development of our consciousness, contributing to significant achievements that aligned us with the broader objectives and frameworks of the universe. So I'm so sorry that this is not spread all over the globe, because we are talking, oh, but when we are going to communicate with the intelligence of other worlds, well, John is saying, when we are more aligned with the objectives and frameworks of the universe, people, not only intellectually understanding the laws that are not only here in our planet, but of course in other galaxies and this and that. We have had the interstellar objects coming inside our solar system, and we are learning a lot about them, right? So because of our science is evolving, and okay, so our intellect is evolving, and we have to go on evolving morally. We have to go on learning more how to love one another, right? Because that's a law in the universe. It's creation, right? So for Joanna, the destination of our consciousness is cosmic. We are all interconnected. We are not separate. Doesn't matter the distance and space and time, right? So the destination of our consciousness is cosmic in nature, when in perfect harmony with the plans and programs of the universe. So Joanna says, throughout successive phases of evolution, the intelligent principle, all of us, accumulates experiences that form its foundation for mental and moral development. By progressing through challenging and demanding early stages, it attains greater clarity, enabling comprehension and adherence to the governing principles of the cosmos. So we need to evolve to understand the governing principles of the cosmos. During the stage of initial cognition, says Joanna, actions are governed by instinctual automatisms that maintain essential biological functions. This allows for the gradual development of discernment, driven by rigorous effort, while refining one's approach through the achievements attained. In this early individual, aspirations reflect anticipation for future achievements. He observes the night sky, yet cannot comprehend the distant shining objects which appear near to him. So it can happen to us as children, for instance, if we are talking about our evolution here in this personality, the ego, and of course the psyche. The ego is helping the psyche, the higher self, actually, to be here and adapt to this life, so that it can experiences this life and learn whatever the spirit is supposed to learn, okay, or has planned to learn in this existence. But also it pertains to our evolution anthropologically as a species, right? So we have this early individual, in the early individual, aspirations reflect anticipation for future achievements. So we observe the nature like the night sky when we are children, or when we were early human sapiens here evolving. So we could not comprehend the distant shining objects. But let's say what Jonah says. The process of evolution is extensive and often challenging, resulting in enduring impacts that may resurface as distress or aggression, frustration or resentment, particularly when triggered by unforeseen circumstances. Okay? These archetypes will significantly shape his our actually psychological behavior throughout multiple corporeal existences, guiding our continuous advancement. So, archetypes, as Jung said, the footsteps of God within the psyche, I love this definition, is all the possibilities that we have of perception and experiencing, like ancient forms, archetypes, ancient types in our psyche, right? They're, of course, evolve gradually, but they are part of our human experience collectively. They are part of our collective unconscious. So, what happens when we face challenging situations, and haven't we all been facing challenging situations, right? And situations from the beginning where we are afraid to die, we are afraid that something will happen, and this experience will end, right? As a species, there in the past in Africa, when we left the trees or whatever and started evolving as the human species. And of course, when we are children, that we have a lot of situations where we can be traumatized. We can have to face difficult circumstances, right? So the way that we perceive these circumstances, the way that they seem to us, that they talk to our psyche, and they help to structure our experience. That's what Joanna is talking about. It's going to structure our personality and our experience here in this life, but also depending on the way that we can sublimate, understand, integrate this experience, we can take our traumas, our complexes to different lives, okay? So, for instance, being frustrated by something that we thought was so important to us, and being resentful of the consequences of, the certain challenges and certain situations, or developing aggressive behaviors. Don't we know aggressive behaviors, right? In our own experience and our experience in our collective, doesn't matter the country, doesn't matter the culture. We all live situations where aggression is the answer within each one of us. So this kind of situations that John is talking are also archetypes, ancient forms of perceiving and reacting to the world within and without us. And they significantly shape our psychological behavior, okay? And we can take them through many existences. And I brought to you now, and I think we can, I've put this so that Fabrice and I and you all agreed that we can have some time to discuss. I brought this PowerPoint. This dear friend of mine, Claude Robert Cloninger, he's a psychiatrist. I think I have cited here some at some point. He's a psychiatrist, and he's a geneticist, and he's one of the wonderful minds of our times, okay, responsible for the inventory of personality And by dividing personality and character, and a different character and temperament, and getting through his many decades researches in the United States, in the trace of character of self-transcendence. Okay, that was a breakthrough in science. So there is a beautiful book exploring frontiers of the mind-brain relationship from 2020, and by Alexander. The editors are Alexander Moreira Almeida and Franklin Santana dos Santos. There are editors. It's by Springer, so a very respected scientific publisher, and doesn't have translation to Portuguese. This is all in English, people. And many scientists and colleagues and psychiatrists, psychologists, philosophers are in this book. So the foreword by my friend Robert Cloninger is like this: human beings are naturally curious and seek a coherent understanding of life and its mysteries. So he's also talking about an archetype, if we can say, this curiosity that we all have, and that propels us to seek a coherent understanding of life and its mysteries. The possibility of life after death is the most ancient of all mysteries, as shown by the burial rituals of the earliest Homo sapiens. In fact, wonder about spirituality emerged along with the development of narrative language, art, and science. Human art, science, and spirituality are all basic expressions of the self-aware consciousness that is unique to modern human beings. Hence, a fundamental characteristic of human beings is our need to explore and understand the frontiers of the relationships among body, thought, and spirituality. So he's talking about this archetypal situation where we have a need, as Cloninger says, to explore and understand these frontiers that the psyche lives in this reality when we incarnate, that are the frontiers of the relationships among body, thought, and spirituality. So I'll stop sharing here so that we can discuss, right, Fabrizio?
Yes, so please raise your Zoom hand if you want to interact with the group.
And Fabrizio, maybe some people have written something in the chat. I know they have done something, some comments last meeting. No, no, now.
Yeah. Um, I think I want to start. I want to bring one of the quotes from Carl Rogers, and I don't know if you're familiar with Carl Rogers. He is the founder of the humanistic psychology, and I've been studying Carl Rogers at university. One of his quotes remind me very much what Johnny says with us here tonight. And the quote goes something like this: human beings has innate potential for growth. Given the right condition, people naturally move towards growth and fulfillment. And I think when he says here right conditions, I would linked with what John has been saying about life. Life is the right condition that we all need as a human being for potential growth. And I found that very interesting, this connection that I could establish between Carl Rogers and Joanna, says that we all have that potential in ourselves. It's not anything external, it's in us. And Joanna starts the chapter talking about our inner values. They are all in us, just awaiting the time for being awakened. So is that not the same thing they're both saying there?
Yeah, it's wonderful. Like Cloninger. So I wanted to bring Cloninger to you guys because it's a very known scientist in the United States. And he's talking the same thing from different perspectives, but it's the same thing as Carl Rogers, Jonah Angelis, Jung, that we have this innate is within us. I don't know, maybe one of you remember, it was a past meeting that we were talking, we were studying Joanna, where she says that she was talking about free will, remember, guys? And she was saying that, okay, we have free will in a sense of the way that we are going to react to different challenges, probably when we already have a little more developed spiritual conscious, even in spiritual realms, we can talk with our mentors and plan our incarnation. So free will depends upon, of course, like children. You cannot give free will to children because they were, okay, I want to cross the road and I don't care about the cars. Of course, I'm just joking, but you wouldn't give this kind of free will for children. So it's, of course, free will has to do with our, let's say, spiritual age, I don't know, or spiritual development. But what listening to you, Fabrizio, remind me that we were talking about that when Jonah says we have free will, but we are kind of stuck. It's not, that's not, those are not her words. I don't know if you guys remember, but I remember that we were studying her and she was saying, but we don't have freedom in a sense of we have the speed of evolution, of course, we have all this freedom, but we don't have freedom in a sense that I don't want to evolve. I'm going to stay here, I'm going to be stuck in here, and I don't want to evolve, I don't want to be part of anything, I want to disappear. That's not a choice, right? Because evolution is the law, and we are not giving choice because we are part of the cosmos, and the cosmos and the life in cosmos in different manners is evolving. So when you talk about Carl Rogers and we study Jung and Joanna and other authors that you are inspired and everybody else that we bring and I bring to you guys. You see, when they talk about spirituality and evolution of consciousness, we get to this point that we are evolving. What we can choose is the speed of this evolution, right? But not uh, get out of the evolution. We would get out of within ourselves because we are part of the cosmos, right? Deborah, I think Deborah has raised her hand.
Yes, that's me. Hi, everyone. So I would like to mention two things. So the first one was on Elizabeth, but I was like slightly before meeting, I was reading this book about Clara de Assis. And, and so she was talking about prayers and kind of like guiding us how to pray. And she was talking about like praying as a communion act, like praying together. And not only because praying is about connecting with God, but also like connect with others and praying with other people. And then so it got my attention, this idea of like praying as a community action. So, and then we start a course, and then you mentioned about, this communion with the source of creation. So for me, it was a kind of like a coincidence. Not sure if it's a synchronicity, but for me, it was very
Yeah.
interesting.
Of
And,
course, yes, thank you.
and the second thing, and it was more like maybe a question. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it properly, but when I was reading the fourth paragraph, when Jonas talks about like developing our consciousness and the broader objectives, and comprehending, like developing our great. I was thinking that based on my own experience, it was not easy for me to identify and it's still not yet clear to me what is the meaning of my incarnation. So I still keep looking for what am I doing here. And I think when I read this the fourth paragraph today, I started to wonder, so maybe it's part of the objective of my incarnation to find out what is the objective of my incarnation. And then also, so because I suppose we were supposed to be very clear about it since the very beginning. For me, it was like, it's not clear at all. So I'm still trying to find things out. And also how my individual objective is connected to these broader objectives. So for me, it's this idea of, this kind of like different, circles where we have like individuals and I have my objective and you have also, and we as a collective, we have ours. And then I was thinking about like the complexity of this thing and how the universe is perfect, because imagine like how many objectives there are and things are working so smoothly and perfect, and it's just like amazing for me. It's like blowing my mind in terms of like, oh my God, it's really, I really have no idea what the universe is, what is this cosmic consciousness, which was also another question for me, for you. So if you could develop a little bit more about like what does it mean to like cosmic consciousness, because for me sometimes it's not, is it God? What do you understand of? Yeah, okay. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. Because we kind of we have been indoctrinated that we are small, that we are, that we are also helpless, and that we are have to struggle too much, to be better. It's not that we are learning, of course, as Joanna says, we are going to have mistakes and we are going to have successes because we are evolving. But what I think is beautiful in Joanna, and that I started actually realizing after many years of reading her text, because it depends on, as I have been telling you guys, it depends on how you read the text. So, as you said, Deborah, if you think, oh, like, I don't know why I'm here. And I want to listen to Andres because he was hearts and yes, and he and I did the same thing like this at the same time. Because what I think is that we are in a moment of evolution, go vibrating higher. Many of us that are awakened, spiritually awakened, as we are, of course, because we are talking about the spirit, right? So we are in a point of evolution that at the same time, the ego thinks, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here, because that's the ego, right? I don't know what I'm doing here. And maybe the ego is expressed by some complex, the inner child, or this and that we have been studying. So I don't know what I'm doing here, what's the purpose of my life, things like that. We all question ourselves at some point in the in our lives. But the problem is that that's what Joanna says. Remember, we have been studying last year. It's all in Burnout Society YouTube about suffering, about the challenges, about the way that suffering helps us to evolve in this moment still of our consciousness. But so Joanna is bringing all this knowledge, putting together Jung and Spiritist knowledge and other Buddhism. Remember that we talk about the Vedas and things like that. So all the knowledge that we can, or that we already have collectively, different cultures. But at the same time, as you are saying today, Deborah, and I think it's wonderful insights that you had, uh, that she is saying, yes, but when we are aligned, and it could be, I can be pressed by the inner child and all of this. I have my complex, my neurotic patterns. And at the same time, I'm here with you guys, studying Joanna. And as we did in past meetings, then we do a meditation. And then I feel totally connected. Doesn't matter space and time. totally connected to you, as we did in England in the Congress, and we are going to do in Portugal this year, right, Fabrizio? That we were all together and people felt the being of light within in the room and within each one of us. That was a spiritual experience. So it doesn't matter because, of course, we were not cured of our traumas and inner child and this and that. And the inner child or our traumas can, of course, after this experience, appear again, or maybe even more in a more intense way because of this balance that we have to find. But at that moment was the higher self that was there present. So we were, oh, that's the purpose of my whole life, for instance, to be here with the brothers and sisters, feeling this, as you said, so wonderful, Deborah, in talking about one of Joanna's life as Claire of Assisi. So let's pray together. So I'm not going to get rid of my complexes or neurotic patterns. That's little by little. It's a work in progress with the ego struggling, all that. But at the same time, I can have moments that get bigger and bigger and more frequent. For instance, of connecting to this wholeness and connecting and having this experience, as even Freud acknowledged at some point, of oceanic, I think, feeling where I'm connected to everybody, everyone. So I'm not going mad, I'm not psychotic or things like that. It's the higher self that presents itself. So then you could think, oh, what I'm doing here. Well, these are moments, remember Professor Lionel Corbett, and in the first year of our meetings, he studied a lot the numinous experiences. So I can have a lifetime and I can really have intense numinous experience, for instance, but I still struggle with things of from my ego. But what he usually talked about and cited Jung when Jung says a numinous experience has a healing effect. So if the ego calms down, and we know ourselves, as Joanna asks us to do, we know our complexes, right? But, and then at the same moment, I say, okay, these are my complex, they are here by my side. This is my ego, this and that. But in this moment, with all of you, for instance, when I'm praying with, that's my spirit. Isn't that beautiful? That's my higher self. And it's here present with me today, and it's here present. Then I realize in that moment and say, well, but it's so few moments in my life. No, these moments are everything, but because they are connections, and it means that my ego is mature enough, as yours is, mature enough to realize that I still have my doubts, that it's my ego, my complexes, but at the same time, I'm living this life. And myself, my higher self, my spirit is here with me, and I have through it the connection of with the whole, with the source of creation. Thanks so much because I think it's so important. It is a beautiful synchronicity. Andres and Sylvia, with you guys. Thanks, Deborah.
Luciana, what was Luciana saying? Luciana was saying a consciousness, universal consciousness, right? Is that what you were saying? What I believe that is, and what I think I know it is. It's just my philosophy on it. It's we are that consciousness, and we came here and we forgot. We had to forget to relearn, but nothing what we are learning we have forgotten. So it's really a remembering more than anything else, I believe. So that what makes it so frustrating, because we got to wait. I don't believe we can speed it up. We can slow it down, yes, 100%. We can slow it down by being derailed by other energies, by other influences, people we're meant to meet, people we're meant to have a relationship with. I believe it depends on what the other person has experienced as well, you know. We're meant to have a soulmate, we're meant to have a twin flame, we're meant to learn we are soulmate, we are twin flame, but it depends on what damages we occurred through our own upbringing, which can derail the other and make the whole thing much more difficult. So we got to bring somebody back for us to grow, and then it becomes really, really, really challenging. But I believe we are the consciousness, you know, it's God, but God is us, we are God. So that means we are the very thing forgotten. We're just forgotten. So, and that is what's the whole journey about, isn't it? Remembering, not learning, remembering. And I think when we're staying on our own path, and as Deborah said so beautifully, it's like, I don't remember, or I don't know what is my path, or what is my calling. That is part of it. That very question, it's the most important. You don't remember, that means you're on your way. And I love that part, really. And it's kind of like an oxymoron situation, isn't it? It's like push me, pull me. It's like, what the hell? You will know exactly when you're meant to know, when you have made that decision, when you have decided I'm 50, 40, 80, maybe 24 hours before you take your last breath. Oh my God, I got it. That was the moment, you know? And so you cannot speed this up. So sit back and enjoy the ride, I have to say, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Andreas. Sylvia?
I was just thinking about the point that Deborah was saying, because I remember all my life, I said, oh, who am I? What am I doing here? I mean, I remember, you know, as a teenager, spending time with my friends the whole afternoon asking this. And, you know, I think is a question that we do ask. But I feel as well something that you said, Anahy, that sometimes we are brought up in a way that we think we're small, you know, instead of thinking that we are inheritors of the universe, you know, we're part of the everything. And in that thought, I think we see sometimes, you know, people who have great missions, they have great work to fulfill. And, you know, say, for instance, Divaldo, he was born with, you know, with a lot of heavy things that challenged him, and he worked, you know, he gave everything. But I think within the Spiritist teachings, we learn as well that everything is important. I think that there is a passage, a message from Emmanuel, that he said, one brick, if you don't have one brick in the foundation, the whole building will come down. And sometimes we think that we need to do these amazing things, but you know, wherever we are, our life, what we're learning, what we are creating, we are creators as well as being created. This is our mission at the time. That's what we are there to do. You know, if maybe we just the nail or just the little brick, and I think that's why sometimes we feel challenged and we feel that we're not good enough, we don't deserve this, because we keep thinking that we should be doing, you know, changing the world and creating philosophies or great wealth, whatever it is, you know, that each one of us have, instead of thinking, no, I am in the place that I have to be, and I have to be the best that I can be where I am. And as we grow, as we develop spiritually, much more will be asked of us. And I think, you know, we shouldn't, I think personally, anyway, since I found the Spiritist doctrine, that I got the book, and when I saw the contents, I said, oh my God, all my answers are here. And you know, I think you find your role, isn't it? Because if just one thing that, you know, a silly thing, you go in the street and you talk to someone and you give them a smile, maybe that person needed it. You know, I remember this friend of mine saying she was in the bus stop and the bus was taking some time to come. So she started talking to this young woman who was there. And, you know, they talked and talked. And then when the bus came, she had to get her bus. And the girl said to her, I was here thinking that I was going to get home and was going to kill myself because I couldn't see any purpose in life anymore. But because you stopped to talk to me, I see a different path. And we can't imagine, oh, we're having to be right. No, just maybe a conversation with someone. You can change that person. She was blessed to actually have someone to say that. But how many times we did things and somebody left and we don't know it, but maybe we changed the day for that person. And I think that's how we see we are, like you're saying, we are all interconnected with each other, and we are living this at this moment because we have to be here, and each one of us is one brick, is a part of the foundation that we are going to achieve, and nothing small. We are the children of God. We inherited the universe. I think that's how I feel. I'm not small. I am quite big. Anyway, that's what I
Beautiful.
think.
Yes, exactly. I totally agree with you. Yes, exactly. Uh, should we go on to the next part of the PowerPoint? What do you
Yes,
think? I don't know the chat. Is anybody doing any comments?
I think we can go to the second part. We have half an hour left for the finish of the study.
Okay, so I'll share again with you guys. Okay, so I think we stopped here. Just yeah. So Joanna goes on saying that each personality, just each personality exhibits traits influenced by previous incarnations, leading to certain parasitic and unsettling manifestations that are classified under the topic of multiple personalities, often seen as alienated behaviors. She's talking here, of course, in Jung's concept about our complexes, right? And sometimes, as Jung says, it's not only us that have complexes, but the complexes can have us. So, until a point that we have, for instance, some psychiatric disease like multiple personalities or other other diagnoses. So the psychological development follows an anthropological trajectory, particularly evident in the earliest stages. So we were talking about that even as a child here in our development, as we evolve psychologically, right? From instincts in the beginning, the child, needs nourishment, needs to be clean, needs to sleep, very basic physiological needs. But the neural system is evolving and the ego is evolving. So the child starts having emotions, experiencing, and learning and memories of good moments, bad moments. So we go on evolving little by little, our ego, our consciousness here. And anthropologically is the same. We start as very primitive beings until we get to this point of Homo sapiens. Okay. So she says that advancing slowly yet surely, learning from the living forces of the universe. So we learn from the living forces of the universe. As we were talking, that we are all interconnected, but not only among us and among, like the Buddhists talk about the sentient beings, okay, that in a sense, all of the Mother Earth and its constituents like minerals, plants, animals, different types of animals, all have kind of are kind of conscious, but of course very primitive kind of conscious. So the Buddhists call sentient beings. We have been talking about that. So, but we are learning, evolving, and learning from these living forces of the universe that are we are part of, right? So individuals store up invaluable resources of knowledge that has cost them innumerable sacrifices on the long road of experience. And they now question themselves about the purpose of that entire pathway of growth. When we get to a point, as Guanger was saying, that we start questioning ourselves, we have already adapted to this life. And then let's think of the child. The child has complex thought, complex thought process, because in the beginning it's very concrete thinking, but then the nervous system evolves, the child has experiences with family, emotions, feelings get more complex, and get to a point, usually teenage years, but a little before, of a more complex thought process, right? And so Joanna says that through all these different experiences and sacrifice, we start at some point questioning ourselves about the purpose of that entire pathway of growth, as Deborah was doing, right, Deborah? We're questioning yourself. Our example today. Thank you so much for sharing. So finally, Jonah says, the human beings, us, they discover that they are on the threshold of truly fulfilling and profound accomplishments, for they mean deliverance from residual atavisms, a word that Jonah talks a lot. So patterns that are very old within the psyche, right? Raising the aspirations to a realm of purer, thus less anguishing emotions, that is, those that do not result in weariness, bitterness, or discouragement. So we learn little by little to going deeper, sorry, learning about ourselves, learning about nature, learning about the cosmos, right? We start getting rid of residual atavisms, right? And our aspirations are elevated to a realm of purer and less anguishing emotions. That is, those that do not result in weariness, bitterness, or discouragement. Individuals are predestined for happiness, Jonah says, for conquest of the infinite beyond the expressions of space. Wow. I told you that I'm a tracker, like Star Trek Next Generation. So I want to go boldly where no one has gone before, or where a lot of people have gone before and I don't remember, as Andrea said. I've forgotten. So the current discomfort serves as motivation, encouraging advancement beyond circumstances that perpetuate undesirable influences. Upon recognizing the profound value of love, they commit themselves, so we all commit ourselves to advancing the collective benefit, diligently working towards personal mastery, positive relationships with others, and overcoming challenges in life. Remember, people, there's a law of love that Jesus came to taught us like more than 2,000 years ago, right? But that's not something that we actually, many of us still have not actually mastered at this point, because otherwise we wouldn't have wars in the world. We would not have people arguing in the social medias. We would respect each other's opinions. We would even consider it and try to discern what's okay for us, what's not, because we all evolve in different ways, right? And we wouldn't especially have enemies anymore, because as I was telling you, we would not project our personal or collective shadows onto others, right? So then we would be masters of ourselves, we would construct more positive relationships, and we would overcome challenges in our lives. That's what we hope to do by the end of this existence, and to go further and, in our evolution. So they are drawn to activities and experiences that are dynamic and stimulating, which promote personal growth and foster harmonious connections. This engagement enables them to become an integral, active participant within the broader context of life. Existential meaning is discovered only when we reach a high degree of perception of reality that transcends the boundaries of the physical, transitory, and experiential existence, this existence in the matter, which nevertheless can and must be nourished with joy and holistic health. I think that's fantastic. We want to have existential meaning, right, Deborah? We were talking about that. So Joanna is telling that existential meaning is discovered only when we reach a high degree of perception of reality, our reality, but not only here in the matter. Remember, cosmic consciousness. So when we reach a high degree of perception of reality that transcends the boundaries of this existence that is physical and transitory, right? Which nevertheless, this existence has to be nourished with joy and holistic health, a more let's say, amplified way of understanding ourselves. Joanna calls us to self-analysis, right? Self-observation, to be with our own truth. And who knows this truth of who we really are? Remember, objective psych, where we are, what we really are. Where is it? It's the self, capital S, is our higher self, as we were talking, and Andres was talking, so, and Sylvia too. Of course, we have an ego that gets confused, and in some incarnations have more or less difficulties to adapt, to understand what is supposed to be doing here, and to make questions, as Deborah was making right now, in this moment, this meeting. So what am I doing here? Am I in the right path? Which is the right path? So all of these answers are in the self and are with us present here. But the ego has to be mature enough, calm enough to make the connection, right? So therefore, Jonas says, one ought not mistakenly believe that the primary purpose of the existential experience is living the good life, that is, amassing wealth, enjoying amenities, finding pleasure in sensations that are renewed and then exhausted, making it to the winner's circle, and all such longings of magical thinking. For Joanna, this is magical thinking, people. to live only in the material life and the desires of the ego and of our complexes, right? Pursuing miraculous privileges and regalia that do not put individuals in harmony with themselves. Undoubtedly, Joanna says, within the framework of objectives and existential purpose, social, economic, artistic, cultural, and religious accomplishments are recognized as they constitute essential aspects of interpersonal relationships. Nevertheless, she says, these objectives are not absolute endpoints to one's pursuits. After passing through the threshold of the grave, the individual persists, or our consciousness goes on, retaining his aspirations for personal growth embedded within his inner being in the higher self. We can see that, and many people have passed through the threshold of the grave and have come back. Remember, in which we experience near death experiences. There are a lot of podcasts with people relating nowadays because they were very ashamed of relating their near death experience in the past because science wouldn't get there, understanding that this is an example of, as Jung says, that the psyche is acts actually and is its origin is out, and action is out of space and time. So the mind is using the brain, but in not that the brain is producing the mind. That is the spiritual paradigm that we are getting there through science and through knowledge such as spiritist knowledge. So to advance without undue exhaustion, to demonstrate perseverance in confronting challenges, and to recognize them as opportunities for growth, advance without undue exhaustion, demonstrate perseverance in confronting challenges, and recognize them as opportunities for growth, the challenges as opportunities for growth. These, according to Joanna, are the principles by which you can integrate core goals for physical, emotional, and mental development into your daily routine, your daily life. So to end this presentation, so we can talk a little bit more, another sentence by Cloninger, he says, human beings have been aptly described as evolution conscious of itself. In the insightful words of the anthropologist Sir Julian Huxley, accordingly, it is natural for human beings to try to understand the nature of the cosmos, here again. And from what I know, Cloninger, he already knows a bit of spiritist knowledge because we have been feeding him with information. Has come to Brazil, to the south of Brazil many times, and to other parts of Brazil with colleagues like Alexander, Moreno Almeida, and others. But from what I know, he still doesn't know Joanna's teachings, okay? But here in 2020, he says, accordingly, it is natural for human beings to try to understand the nature of the cosmos and their place within it in order to know how to satisfy their needs and live well in health and happiness. In order to live our whole life well, the conscious experience of human beings includes learning how to adapt to different dimensions of human experience, okay? Among the many adaptative situations, spirituality is the most recently evolved, and its evolution may be incomplete, thereby resulting in marked differences between different people in traits like altruism and gifts like clairvoyance or extrasensory perception. Jung said that we, the psychologists and psychiatrists and psychotherapists of the future, would have to understand more of the spiritual experiences like clairvoyance and extrasensory perceptions, for instance, telepathy and things like that, because this is part of our evolution according to Jung, and Cloninger is talking about the same thing, right? So I think this is the main point that I wanted to talk to you about when I brought this forward by Cloninger, that spirituality is the most recently evolved and its evolution may be incomplete in many of us, in different cultures, different people, right? So we have to understand that each one of us has a speed of evolution, let's say, different experiences. Let's not judge one another. Let's be patient with one another and understand that sometimes I have had some, for instance, some experience, or I'm in a culture that it's much more open to spiritual experiences, for instance, or I have a brother or sister, another person in another part of the globe that it's a more is in a more closed culture, that thinks that if, or in a more in a circumstance where people think, oh no, if you saying that you have perceptions that are extrasensory, that you have knowledge from future events or knowledge from events that are apart from your experience, sensory experience. Oh, this is psychotic episode. You have this and this that problem. But and then person can feel that it's not okay to talk about that. But we have to understand each other's circumstances, right? And that, as Conger is saying, and Joanna and Jung, people are in different levels of evolution of their own spirituality. And just to remember that we have been seeing question 540 of the Spirit's book by Kardec, and where I'm just here if someone wants to go over it, but where he talks about this kind of evolution that all is part in the surface of the globe, always part of a harmony, and also in the cosmos, right? So we are all, as he said, that more primitive organisms, for instance, that we could say are more primitive consciousness, they execute, and later, when their intelligence is more developed, they command and direct the matters of the material world. Still later, they direct the things of the moral world. Hence, everything is useful. Everything. Everything in nature is linked together. This is Kardec, actually, the spirits answering Kardec in this question. So everything is in nature is linked together, from the primitive atom to the archangel, who also began as only an atom, an admirable law of harmony, which your limited minds cannot yet grasp in its entirety. And to finish this presentation, let's go to Joanna. And when she says the miracle of life, ending all proposals and solutions to the existential challenges of life depend on the effort, perseverance, and confident action of each person. Whatever cannot be achieved on one moment through wholesome persistence will be achieved at a later time, thanks to the invaluable endeavors of the different psychological approaches in general and that of spiritist psychology in particular. Excellent contributions have been put forth and are available to all those who sincerely are interested in constructing a sound conscious, a lucid and responsible individual, and a thriving society. So I'll stop sharing and we can talk again with you, Fabricio.
So, anyone wants to contribute with any of your insights? Please raise your Zoom hand. Isabel, over to you.
Well, um, that's a little difficult because I realized I'm with you 3 years now, but I couldn't be present. And I thought okay, I can't do everything, all this, and I do not know Joana Bianchi so good. I would like very much to read more things, but I can't. I have so much to do. I'm retired, so um, I'm not a how do you say? I can't speak English. My German just
Psychiatrist,
comes.
psychologist,
Okay,
everything.
psychiatrist. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I know many. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm a patient. I was a patient uh, a long time, but everything is in my life. It's the longer life, I suppose, here. I don't know. I'm 73. But it's this synchronicity is the whole time. All my life is like that. Just as there's an objective. There's something. I must be here with you. I don't know why, but I'm just attracted to it. And I thought this year I'm not going because I would like to talk, but I can't talk. I'm an English teacher. I would, you know, English and German, but I'm just out of practice, and these things are much more difficult for me than the normal things of everyday life. But I would like to study, but I can't because I have other. Okay, so I noticed that our study group in Aveiro, with Alexandre Fabricio knows him, for 3 years ago began with Jung and Freud and all that stuff. So I just my ears went up, but then I couldn't. Then okay. This year I thought, no, I'm not going. I'm not going to do to myself because we are eating late here and 8 o'clock. So, but yeah, then the name of the study is Inner Journey. Yes. Then I noticed that our study group here is inner journey. And Jung, okay, I wanted to go to Jung's house. I applied to it because my son lives in Zurich, 11 years now. I got sick. I couldn't go. They were so um, nice to me. They wrote to me and said, in a year's time, please come, but I couldn't. Yeah, and then there was this group, a Portuguese group, psychiatrists, and okay, and I'm beginning with them too, with Jung, okay, without spiritism, because I'm a spiritist 20 years ago, from 20 years, for 20 years now. And I thought, but what am I going to do? I'm going to listen. Yeah, I'm going to listen. So I was completely, I'm completely not stuck, but I'm imprisoned in you. And my son came to me for 2 weeks ago from Switzerland with Jung's red book, but not the red book. Das rote Buch, Andreas. In German. My German is, I'm married to an Austrian, so I talk German the whole time in Portuguese. Okay, but to read Jung, the red book, in German, I know very little about Jung. So there is a reason for all this. And all my life, I could be hours talking to you, all this synchronicity, all these things. And okay.
Isabel, there is another synchronicity. I will answer you with another synchronicity. I got a small message here to send to the WhatsApp group. But the first sentence I have here in my mobile, I'll put it later. The first sentence is the answer to you. Today, that's the first sentence. Today, the call is to remember the sacred that dwells within you. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not intellect, it's not learning about concepts. It's like Andres and everybody else was talking about, and Fabrizio and Deborah and everybody, is to remember the sacred that is within each one of us. So that's the calling. Doesn't matter that some concept you can't remember or you are not familiar. Little by little will come, but it's the experience and the calling. When the calling is strong, and it's so good that you have a mature ego, that you are listening to the calling. That's the inner journey. And we struggle with that for so many years when we are young because the ego doesn't want to hear the calling. So you are in the right place. Thank you so much.
I
I
thank
think
you.
Anne wants to.
Yeah.
I think Anne wants to say something.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, and just I'm going to say something else, but it's about it's that it you can't read an encyclopedia and want to know everything. So as the experiences happen, then the learning is focused on your experience because then it becomes meaningful for you, the learning method. So your colleague might have a different focus than you, and you might find one word or one sentence that suddenly, aha, this is really meaningful for me. I will meditate on this, I will work on this. And you will go having all the other information coming. But it's not about taking all the information and trying to carry it. It's about being able to, it comes to me the expression from the gospel, to find in everywhere, like the birds and the plants, that God provides for them, provides for us as well. That when we are looking, we will find. And it's just like an organic way that doesn't require this big ego effort, but the movement of the soul. So this is, for me, is work in progress. But what I just wanted to say is that I really like Joanna here when she says in the end of the bit that we spoke about, and talking about the challenges, about to make the effort to conquer yourself, to overcome yourself, to be more spiritually, not physically, and facing the challenges with joy. This is Joanna. She's always like, stop crying, people, be happy. We are here. The challenges are part of it. Don't be angry with them, embrace them. And I really like this. And in the same way that in the beginning there, she says, like, of the value of both getting things right and getting things wrong, because we will learn from getting things wrong. So what is wrong and right? We need to be brave to face the challenges and see what results from them, because that is our experience and that's what we take with us. Nobody can give us the experience. We need to go through the experiences and not be afraid of, oh, I'm afraid I might get it wrong, so I won't do it. But if you don't do it, you will not have the experience. And then we come down our ego and our pride and all these kind of things and says it's okay to get it wrong because it's the pathway that we learn. And then it just like life becomes so much easier. And then you can think about joy because, you know, like, ha ha ha, okay, we got this wrong, not so good, painful. I have now a complicated situation I need to deal with, but it's not the end of the world anymore. And I think that comes from that culture, like Anahy was saying before, making us small, a culture in which we're not allowed to make a mistake, because one mistake and you go to hell, inverted commas, in our medieval brought up. And so we are so afraid of making a mistake that we do nothing. And then we are controlled and we are like little lambs. That's what they want. But that's what Joanna is telling us. No, just be brave, go out, you know, grow up and face things, but face it with joy. And that for me, it makes all the difference to my life. So that's, I just want to say how this impacted me in particular. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne,
Thank you,
so
Anna.
much.
Andreas?
Yes, actually, I can just answer Luciana's question right now. So I joined a study group, but I joined Spiritism, which I'm not a Spiritist, so I don't even know what that meant at the time. I'm 60 years old now, and I waited 55 years to hear what I just heard. Just before Anahy read what she just read, I started getting very cold feet. I started getting kind of swummery, feel fevery. My eyes are cold. I had to go away from the screen, get myself some water, and I didn't understand what's going on in my room. And I felt really unwell, and my jaw is really kind of feeling funny. And now I'm seriously emotional because I waited 55 years to hear this. And it was a year ago where I almost left every single group because I just believed I'm born too early. Anahy was sitting on my table in my own home in London last year with other 5 speakers, and I was saying exactly what was just said in that thing. And Anahy's made the comment and said, Andreas, we're not allowed to practice this, what you want to practice or what I wanted to happen. And there it's written, mark difference between different people in traits like altruism and gifts like clairvoyance and extrasensory perceptions. So I'm born with this extrasensory perceptions. Most of my life, from the age of 3 years old, I was told, I was with psychiatrists, and I was sitting there saying that there's something wrong with me. I have really never given up this belief. What I just heard and Anahy spoke out. Even on this table, I felt I was on the wrong table that day. And I felt quite sad. And I felt really kind of like, we're safe on my table. We could have spoken about all of that, but we didn't. And somebody wrote it in this book. And I just been made feel like, yes, you know what? I'm at the right place at the right moment at the right time. I'm 60 years old, and I think I'm looking forward to my most amazing 40 years, because if nothing came out of the 3 years, this just made me take it all back, because it just did. So maybe that answers your question, Luciana?
Isabel, baby.
Was it not Luciana?
No, Isabel.
Was it Isabel? Oh, sorry.
No,
But it was
you
Luciana.
keeping calling, Luciana. There's something going
There's
on
something going on. But
between you two.
just to explain that, yes, I waited 55 years to hear that. I
Telepathy.
never read it in a single book, and there it is. It's just been brought to me, right? So everybody gets something.
I didn't just a second before Deborah. I didn't understand Andres. I think I didn't understand what you were saying. Were we talking in London about extrasensory perceptions?
Yes, I was on the table for breakfast. Remember when you came over? Everybody was sitting on the table. Remember, Far? And I said, like, you know, I'm a spiritual psychoanalyst and psychotherapist born by birth, and I always believed that psychiatrists, psychoanalysts in the field should be working together with mediums and should be working together with people who are
Oh yeah.
soul.
But maybe you didn't understand, because I studied this, I researched this.
Yes.
So I totally believe that as I told you, Jung says that the psychiatrists and psychologists in the future would have to study more about that.
I did not know.
So
I did it now. Wow. So people are believing.
yeah, maybe you didn't understand
I, I
because
think,
Joanna, that I don't know, Fabricio, you were there.
yeah,
What was going on?
I think the misunderstanding is a lot of traditional psychiatrists, they will not accept that. Like, for instance, in
Oh
England,
yeah,
many,
traditional.
yes,
Hmm.
many psychiatrists has a very traditional approach. And if you bring anything to do with spirituality, mediumship, anything supernatural, they completely ignore it. And I said to Andrea many times, not all psychiatrists have the approach, and more psychiatrists are actually giving in to the approach, and they starting to integrate the spirituality in their approach, in their practice.
Yeah. I've been studying for 20 years, Andres, the spiritual experiences and this kind of, and I went to being an analyst, a Jungian analyst because of this. Because even in my family, there are mediums. In Brazil, mediumship, it's one of the spiritual experiences. It's culturally kind of accepted today. But in my days as a young psychiatrist, they would say that people that were having mediumship trance, for instance, were psychotic and needed to take antipsychotic drugs. So we have been studying that, and mainly people here in Brazil that study differences between symptoms in psychiatry, for instance, for any other causes or any types of diagnosis and spiritual experiences, the differences that we already have some directives for psychiatrists and psychotherapists to discern what is symptom of something. Because, for instance, you can have a tumor in your brain there is producing hallucinations and things like that. So we are body, right, mind and
So,
spirit. So we have as medical personnel and psychologists and things like that, and different parts of health professionals. We have to know how to discern, because otherwise you can have a person having a tumor or brain tumor, and you miss that and you think, no, it's a mediumship and this and that. So it's a very I'm very glad that we have been on the road, people like myself and Alexander and other psychiatrists, for more than 20 years now, studying and researching, so that we don't, for instance, a person doesn't, it's totally in the person's culture or history, right? As you are saying, Andrews, and it's natural for the person. And then you say, no, the person is hallucinating if she is in a medianistic trance. So you have to learn how to discern. But that's pretty new in psychiatry. I agree with you. It's from the last years or decade, more or less. But as Fabricio have put in some groups, I'm very glad to tell you, Andres, that we are in our sixth global summit or global meeting. And this year was going to be at Harvard Divinity School with the psychiatrists and psychologists discussing things like spiritual experiences. So we are getting there, Andres. Have faith in psychiatry and psychologists. Don't give up. Never give up. We are
what I would
getting
love,
there.
what I would love to ask is, so where are they? When will they be invited? When will we finally see them? When will they sit in front of us? There's me, but I have not met any other. So when will we find
Oh,
who's
but
channeling?
we are struggling. We are struggling. It's a change in paradigm. And the Spiritist
Europe.
Medical Association that I represent in Brazil, that was created by Dr. Marlene Nobre, that you all know, is a very close friend of Chico Xavier, the medium in Brazil that was even older than Divaldo, right? But we all know very well and has more than 500 books published, Chico Xavier. And so a lot of medical doctors in Brazil, because it is from the higher realms that this information came through Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, we can talk about that later, to Dr. Marlene Nobre, that we should study the spirit and medical personnel and study and change paradigm from the materialistic paradigm that it's still unfortunately present mostly in science and change to the spiritual paradigm. But science is changing. Like Rupert Sheldrake in UK had a lot of, he's from Cambridge, a wonderful scientist, and there's a documentary, I think he's talking about himself in the YouTube, I think, and Fabricio has put something there for you also. He got a lot of censorship, even criticism, when he started talking about his thesis of that I was talking about last meeting about morphic resonance. Okay, but we are getting there a lot. Even Cloninger that I was talking to you about today, he said that when he discovered his, I think around 80 something, he has decades of research, and he's a psychiatrist and geneticist, and he gets to the self-transcendence trait of character that people with high scores of self-transcendence capacity, with of course combined with other traces, they are more mature and healthier than people that don't have higher scores in self-transcendence. So science is getting there. Have faith, Andrews.
Just a
I don't
quick
know. I
ex
think we passed the time. I don't
yeah,
know
just a quick
what Deborah
example
wants to say.
what happened with Jung and Freud. That's exactly what they actually decided to divide their approach because Jung added spirituality that Freud could not agree, and science still cannot agree, and that's why you start the division. And as you can see, that battle is still going on up to today. No, it's not something that is happening now. It has been happening from many years ago, and it's still happening, right?
But I think it should be a marriage.
And
It could not be one without the
well, we are getting there. We are getting there. I think Deborah wants to say something, Lindalva. I don't know if we have time, people, because we are already past the time. Could be very quick.
Yeah, very quick. No,
Yeah?
just because Annie was mentioning about like being joyful, right? And it's not the first time that I read like this book about Joana de Angelis, but yesterday when I was reading this again, this text, in the moment when she says that, you know, as we evolved, right, we are kind of like getting liberated from outdated patterns and false aspirations rooted in noble emotions. And so for me, it was like, oh my God, if I'm, you know, going through this experience and I'm suffering now, it's because it's a way that life is kind of like to guiding me to say, hey, it's like when you have like a mobile phone and you have to update your you know software. So for me, it was like, okay, so if I'm suffering here, it's like life telling me that I have to change patterns, that I have to change the way I look at this experience. And it's suffering because I have to update the way I look at things. And that's when I said, oh my God, this is joyful because when I realized this way, you know, experiences like, you know, hard experiences are not there to make me suffer or to be like punitive, but actually to liberate myself from like an outdated way to see and look at things. So for me, this is very joyful. And like Annie was saying, like, oh my God, it's like pain's coming to help me out to like look at things differently. And that's really, really nice. So for me, it was like, yes. And I really wanted to hug Joanna when she said that, because for me, it was like, it's a completely different way to look at our suffering, right?
Yeah, but let's get in line, right? And we all, when we get to the spiritual dimensions, Joanna, we want to hug you. Let's get in line because there's a lot of people. Yeah, but that's it. That's it.
I just want to share something, Anahy, just after you have mentioned about, when you talk to patients, you need to know, you need to understand, to have a broader understanding of what is going on. Because we had an experience in my family in Brazil recently, that was very, very serious. We had a 36-year-old who is my nephew's ex-wife who was in a very serious problem, which we thought it could have been mental health problem, it could have been or anything to do with mediumship. But when she was sent to a psychiatric hospital because her state was very, very serious health, and the psychiatric doctor asked them to have a blood test, and it was found that she had a bacteria in her blood that was causing all the problems she was going through. And she had, I think it was like God sent that she went to this doctor that specifically asked for that to be done. And in the end, it was found that she had to receive the right medication to treat that right, but the right bacteria, not just any medication for a blood poisoning or anything like that. And that is what
Thank you.
it was amazing. It was like within a week, she was absolutely fine. So it's spot on. So we need to be more broader, isn't it, within everything, with the understanding, because our bodies are so fragile and anything can set it off.
Yes, thank you so much. That's a great example. We learned that you have always to exclude things like infections, right, and other conditions in the body, because then you cannot assume that is this or that. So the human being is very complex, and we have to have like Jonah said, holistic health means leading and dealing, actually dealing with the complexities of our different systems, right? Thanks, Lindalva. Yes, it's a great example of what I was trying to say. So we are in the end with a great meeting. Fabrizio?
Thank you, everyone. So I'm gonna say, have a nice evening. Thank you, everyone, for listening us. And for those that is not with us, I will stop the recording because you're ending our meeting now. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye bye.